Hello, everybody. It is your Uncle Fish back again for School of Fish Art Stream. J-Man wants Gatling gun on the end of his tail. Oh my goodness. J-Man says the tail's where you put all the heavy artillery. Yeah. Said he used to have a howitzer on the end of his tail.
Hello, hello, hello. It is School of Fish. It is Tuesday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I, of course, am your ever-loving Uncle Fish. Glad to be here. Happy to be here on this beautiful Tuesday morning. And we are going to be working on the Mighty Caw 80s homage wraparound cover that we're doing for issue 2 of Cause, one of the variant covers. And this thing is freaking massive, baby. We have got everything in here. Let's see. We've got Voltron, we've got Ultraman, we've got everybody from Rescue Rangers to Biscuits to Greatest American Hero to, man, we've got Spider-Man and his amazing friends. We've got He-Man and the Wind Raider, Godzilla, Inspector Gadget, Optimus Prime. We got Mask. We got Ghostbusters. We got everything going on. My Little Ponies that we threw in last week with Cabbage Patch Dolls and I'm just a bill, yeah, I'm only a bill, and I'm sitting here on Capitol Hill. We got Mr. T and Speed Buggy in the background. We got Grape Ape. We got the Mighty Caw. We got Thundercats. We got Gizmo, Roadrunner. Man, we got everything up in here. So we are going to start inking on this. And I'm going to drop the opacity down. I put everything in one big group. So it was easy to keep it nice and neat and in one spot. And now I'm adding a layer. And I'm going to color that layer black. I know y'all can't see that aspect. But that's what I'm doing. Boom. All right. And I'm just gonna start up in the corner and I'm going to flip the view so that if there's any little mistakes they'll jump out at me. And then I'm just going to get up in here and start cranking away on working on I guess I'll start on Ultraman. Hope y'all had a good weekend. It's always interesting to me how they have such weird little, like, they'll make stuff so mechanical, but then they'll have big juicy lips on some of these characters' masks, like the Power Rangers and stuff. I guess they're wanting to sink home the humanity as opposed to the, monstrosity of some of the characters. it is going to take me some getting used to. I'm going to work in this new layout since my workspace got crashed and lost on this computer. And now everything that I'm used to being in a certain place isn't there anymore. And that is a little bit frustrating because, you're all set to go to the same place over and over again every time you reach for a tool. You're used to it being in that particular place where it's always been before. And now all of a sudden it's not going to be there anymore because I lost that layout. I don't know why it just up and rebooted one day, but it did. And that was frustrating. I never had that happen before on Clip Studio. We had another hand here somewhere. That's probably the hardest thing about these big images with so much stuff in them is trying to keep everything organized and remember, like, whose foot was that? I know it's somebody's foot. I know it was important. But remembering whose foot that is sticking out in the background is tough. That is indeed Voltron. What's up, John? What's up, Juan? Glad y'all can hang out this morning for a bit. Yeah, this is a giant 80s homage cover for the next issue of The Mighty Caw. And, what's an homage of 80s heroes without the Mighty Voltron? That's just a given. You gotta have some old Voltron on there. Can't be 80s heroes if you ain't got some Voltron. I had all kinds of people yelling out stuff when I was penciling it. And the vast majority of it ended up on the page. Actually surprised by some of it that didn't end up on the page, but there's only so much room, and there's so much cool stuff suggested. How to go so far? Awesome, dude. Yeah, Mighty Caw is available on my TikTok shop right now, and TikTok is doing a heck of a job at pushing it, getting it out there for people to see, and giving people like free shipping and all kinds of stuff if your order's over X amount. And the neat thing is that, like, that whole, like, free shipping on orders over, like, say $20, that doesn't have to be at one store. That doesn't have to be, like, just for me. That can be anywhere. You can buy stuff from several different stores at the same time and make one order and get it all at one time, which is really cool. Like, I went on to order a comic book from one guy on TikTok that's been a big supporter and bought a whole bunch of different creators' books. So I went to go buy his book, and it was like, free shipping if you order over $20. But he only had the one book for sale. It's his first issue. And I got to looking around and realized that I could go on and order stuff from other creators on that same order and then get free shipping on the whole thing. That was awesome. Thanks, man. I'm glad you dig the character. I'm really proud of it. And I really tried to redesign him. Like, I spent a couple of weeks working on the designs for him and some of the other characters that are appearing in later issues. And I usually go with the first design, pretty much first thing I draw is what things end up being. And I really wanted to give him an opportunity to be the best he could be. So I spent a couple of weeks trying to refine the images on him and get the perfect look. And I nailed it the first time. He came out almost exactly the way he ended up in the book. Try as I might, I couldn't really improve on it. I tweaked a couple of little things here and there. like um, gave him pants. That was a pretty small change. Am I going to the NY Comic Con? No, I'm not. I've never been to New York Comic Con. Thought about it a couple of times, but it's a long way away from where I am here. And with my Tourette syndrome, flying can be a real challenge. Because, sometimes I have some tics that can be quite problematic on a plane, of yelling things out and whatnot. And the one time I went on a trip to Washington, D.C., it went fine. And everybody was real understanding and whatnot for the most part. I had a little bit of trouble from one flight attendant, but for the most part, everything went pretty well. But I've had friends have trips go very, very, very badly with their Tourette's and, be pulled off of planes by TSA and whatnot. So I tend to do most of my traveling by car. And from here in New York is a long way away. Now, if I ever get to the point where, like, my publisher or something is already going to be there and I'm invited along for the ride, I would probably do it. I'm absolutely not against going. It's an awful lot right now for me. Oh man, if I could do a series for any of the characters I'm drawing now, which one would it be? Oh man, that is a good question. You know, we were talking about it when I drew Grape Ape on there on the show the other day, and I just threw out there how on the spur of the moment as we were talking about it, how much fun I think it would be to do like a Grape Ape series where him and Beagley are like escaped test subjects from, you know, some lab experimenting on mutating animals. And ever since I threw that out there, just as a funny, like, you know, if I were to do it, I'd probably want to do something like that kind of idea. And I've had that stuck in my head ever since of how cool it would be to have this, like, you know, mutant gorilla, and everywhere they go, like, kind of have them on the run from the government, being chased across the country, kind of like an old, you know, the Hulk TV show or something, you know, where they're on the run from place to place. And everywhere they go, they end up like saving the day from some local corruption. And they become like these folk heroes, and everybody is like making memes and drawing photos and stuff, or drawing images of what they think these urban legend characters look like, and they end up looking like the cartoon versions of Grape Ape and Beagley. And they're like, we don't look anything like that. Not that big. You know, like, I just think that'd be hilarious. And I think it would be so cool. You know, I mean, everything's a dark, gritty take nowadays, but I think that would be fun. I would love to see that. Heck, I'd love to read that, even if it wasn't me making it. But I'll be honest with you. Oh, man. Freaking Thundercats, dude. Absolutely, man. Thundercats would be the most awesome to work on. You know, and like, as much as I would love to do like Voltron or something, my OCD is too severe. Like, I have to get all the little details right usually. Like, I'm trying not to beat myself up too much on this and let this be my interpretation of Ultron, but I could not, for a paying client, I couldn't just do my interpretation of Ultron. Like, it would have to be right. And I would stress out way too much trying to do that on a regular series and get every little detail perfect. Like, I would not want to work on, as much as I love the Transformers and stuff, I would not want to work on them because in my mind I would be trying to make every gear and every piston and hydraulic piston and all those things. All of that stuff would have to be right and have to work in my head, and I would drive myself nuts on that, trying to get all that stuff right. And I'd be like, but it's all out of proportion with the ones in the next panel. Nah, that would drive me up the wall. I wouldn't be able to just relax and enjoy the book. And I would know the whole time there's other geeks out there like me that would be like, oh, actually, that's not the way it is. And I'd stress out about it because I'd be like, yeah, you're right. That's not the way it is. I did it wrong. Oh, I would not handle it well. Could Kaw lift Mjolnir? Kaw's plenty strong, not worthy enough to be a leader. No. Like, he doesn't have, like, where Captain America or Superman would have, the heart and the leadership and whatnot to be able to do it. Kaw absolutely does not. Kaw is just a killing machine. But he's spent, his entire life, literally since he was like the equivalent of 7 or so, he has spent his entire life in the arenas fighting day after day for his survival. So he knows how to kill things. And that's about it. He accidentally became the face of a slave rebellion, but he didn't even intend to do that. Like, that wasn't his choice. That was just the arrogance of the leadership. They knew the slaves were about to revolt, and they knew that they worshipped Kaw, and they thought, oh, well, we'll just bring Kaw into the arena and make him bow in front of us, and that'll keep all the other Cro-Magnons in line. Not realizing that's the one thing Kaw will not do. He will not submit or bow to anybody. He would have stayed in the arenas and fought for the rest of his life because that's all he knew. If you read the source book for Kaw, which talks about like how he got his name, how he ended up in the arenas, all this stuff, it tells you about a time that he could have escaped and he could have got away. But then he realized he had nowhere to go. And this was all he ever knew. So he just went back down and went back to fighting in the arenas again. And he would have stayed there forever if they hadn't tried to make him bow in front of everybody. He's too arrogant for that. By that time, he knew nobody could defeat him. And he wasn't going to do it. And thus, he ended up the leader of a slave rebellion, which all of that happens in like the first 2 pages, I think, of Kaw. And then the rest of the book ensues. I don't want to give too much away, but I'm pretty proud of it. Oh, this file is so big because I've got the time lapse set on it, and there's so much going on it that time lapse is getting huge. Because like, there's just nothing but characters on this page, and so the time lapse on it, that file is getting gigantic, and so it really starts to grind down when it has to do one of those automatic saves. But yeah, working on Thundercats, man, that would be an awesome dream job right there. Which fighting game would you see Kaw doing well in as a DLC? I think he would do well in the like Mortal Kombat versus DC kind of realm of games, because his being able to fly and stuff would lead to a lot of cool special moves. Like my personal favorite games are like, Soul Calibur is one of my all-time favorites, but it doesn't really have a lot of, everybody there is basically ground level and stuff. It doesn't have the room for like having special moves where you pick people up in the sky and throw them around through walls and land in other places to fight and stuff like the Mortal Kombat, especially versus DC, does. Those are really good questions, man. Though personally, just for fun of it, I would love to see him in the old school blocky, like original Virtua Fighter. I freaking loved Virtua Fighter so much. Oh yeah, dude, I freaking love Soul Calibur, but I don't think it has enough room to take advantage. I mean, it has his strength, but his being able to fly is such a huge part of his fighting techniques and stuff now that you would need something that could handle that. But I would love to see him in an old school Virtua Fighter, all blocky and just coo. I loved that game so much just because, like, in there trying to get physics more accurate than it had ever been before, they ended up with some really wonky things. Like, my favorite thing was, like, if you hit somebody just right, you would knock them up in the air off the ground. But if you kept hitting them, they would keep reacting and popping up in the air, so they would never hit the ground. So you could just knock somebody up in the air and then jab, and just carry them out of the ring, floating in midair, and then let go, and they drop. Ring out! And there's nothing. That was the meanest thing to do to somebody. I loved it, but it was so mean. I usually wouldn't do it unless somebody got real ugly while we were playing, or somebody started just button mashing the same move over and over again that doesn't give you a way out. And I would much rather play somebody on skill than just like, oh, I can use this one super move over and over again. Well, anybody can do that, and never give you a chance to get up. Like there's no fun in that. But if that's the way you want to play, then I'll blow a few of your quarters just carrying you out of the ring and dropping you until you see the error of that kind of play and want to either get mad and go home or you want to actually play. Good morning, Phil. It's funny. Soul Calibur is probably the only game I have ever played online with strangers, just because I don't really care for the whole playing with random strangers aspect. I don't enjoy it. I don't get it. I don't see the benefit in playing with a bunch of foul mouth middle schoolers. It's not my thing. You like it, go for it, enjoy it, celebrate it, love it. Not my thing. But Soul Calibur I got online to play specifically because a friend of mine was playing it too, and so we could get on from time to time and play together, which was cool. And then invariably when he would get off to go to bed or whatever, I would end up being stuck playing with somebody that had come in while we were on. And I'll never forget, this one dude got so mad at me and started calling me all these names because he was training for a tournament to fight, to try and win money and whatnot for Soul Calibur. And I was just whooping his butt left and right. He kept calling me all kinds of cheater and whatnot, and I wasn't really playing. I was just button mashing and stuff. And I was like, dude, just because I'm not playing... He was going from one convoluted special move to the next and, trying to get the bonuses for, combining the most specials and, in an order and whatnot. And I guess if you're playing on those kind of tournaments and stuff, you're used to playing against people who are trying to do the same thing too. So they're so busy, tied up, trying to run this combo of special moves that they're not just playing. I was sitting there just beating his butt with jabs and kicks and uppercuts and dodges and blocks, and I was just playing the basic game and just dusting this dude. And he was getting so irate with me because, he's a pro and he's training for tournaments. And that's not how you play. I'm like, dude, I'm literally just using the base moves on this game, man. This is what anybody can play without having to memorize a bunch of crazy special stuff. And I like to go between so many characters that I usually only bother learning a handful of special moves on anybody because I don't play one character enough to make it worthwhile to memorize all of their special moves. But I'll get, a couple of the cool ones, a couple of the ones that are quick and easy because I don't want to get tied up like he was doing in some big, long, complicated thing and giving people the chance to get me with a uppercut while I was trying to do something fancy. I know we're all like products of our generation and whatnot, and whatever was cool when we were growing up is what we like and etc. But I can absolutely see that in the way that like I like to design and draw characters because like because I grew up in the era of like the made for TV Spider-Man movies and uh like Spidey being on the Electric Company and Greatest American Hero and all that stuff. I really enjoy drawing characters looking like they're wearing actual clothes. Like that is my favorite way to design characters and like my favorite Spider-Man to draw hands down is the TV movie Spider-Man with screen lenses in his mask and obvious gloves that come down and a big metal web shooter on the outside of his glove and clearly wearing boots. That will always be my favorite way to draw Spider-Man. Because to me, that just, that makes sense. But that's also like, that's the way superheroes looked when I was a kid. When they got brought over to TV, they're usually, either having to make them costumes like anything else they would be putting on a character on a show. They weren't making foam suits you had to glue people into, for a cheap TV show. Not until The Flash, anyway. And like, where were you going to get these super boots at? Like the boots wrestlers were about as good as you're going to get. Or you're going to have to make something custom. I loved the look of that stuff. But, that's when I was a kid, and that's what spurred my imagination at the time. I ought to make that version of Spider-Man in the background, but he's so small. I think it would get lost. Okay, that little sketch of He-Man doesn't really look right. Something is off, and I'm not exactly sure what it is that's off. So I'm going to do a search. That did not give me what I wanted at all. That just gave me a bunch of dudes. And of course, every single one of these faces is straight on. Frustrating. All right, let me try one more thing. We're gonna go to my favorite 3D resource. All right. There we go. Sorry. I know that's not very interesting for y'all. I found Fakor though. And he's my favorite. So that makes me happy. Okay, let me see if I can fix some of what's bothering me. I was stuck saving again. I can see Cause Space Ghost crossover being awesome. Absolutely. See, you're going down the right avenue right there. Because, while Kaw is absolutely, like a barbarian, he's also like a sci-fi character. Like, it's. Apparently, I didn't do a good enough job in the pitch of Kaw. People didn't get enough that it wasn't just swords and sorcery. Like, it's also spaceships in outer space and Flash Gordon and stuff as well. And I guess that's my fault. I thought, talking about him being a mashup of all of my favorite things growing up and, mentioning things like Thundercats and He-Man and all that was going to be enough to let people know that, but apparently it didn't come across and people just assumed, which, you forget how much people just make assumptions quickly on things. And man, when I really look at like how quickly I just scroll past somebody's video on TikTok and stuff, I'm like, oh yeah, that stinks. That people don't have any patience for something that doesn't capture their imagination right away. Phil says his favorite part is when is in the spaceship and he breaks out of the container, which is made of indestructible material, by the way, and um, uses his intubation tube to kill a dude. I was pretty proud of that. I gotta admit, up until this issue, that was my favorite death I've ever. That was my favorite kill in any of my books, up until now. And now in this issue, oh my god, he Call outdoes himself in this issue. He shows you why he's the deadliest man in the galaxy. That's for sure. And he does it all with one hand tied behind his back, too. Which is just beautiful. I love that. I don't want to get myself canceled on any of the platforms, but Ka is the absolute definition of mess around and find out. What's up, Kyron? Glad you can make it. Just not the same without having Kyron in here. How can we know we're having fun if we don't have our betters in here to tell us we're having fun? That's looking very Wind Raidery. That's the technical term. For resembling or alluding to a Wind Raider. Y'all didn't know me and old Noah Webster go way back, did you? Yeah. I was one told him, if you gonna make up all these definitions for things, you ought to write that mess down. He told me I was crazy, but I'll be danged, he went and did it. Did I even get so much as an acknowledgement in the book? No. Okay, that is true. I remember Webster, Kyron says. His book was okay, but the TV show was fantastic. Kyron's asking if I'm using OBS or TikTok Live. I'm using OBS because I'm not on TikTok Live right now. I thought about it at the last second. I was like, I don't have time. I'd have to reset my camera and everything, and I didn't do it. Though I will be going live through TikTok and everything Thursday. Thursday is going to be another one that I'm going to be doing publicly because I'm going to be having a guest on Thursday talking about his book. And so we're going to have him on. The guy above He-Man, what? That's the greatest American hero. Look at what's happening to me. I can't believe it myself. Suddenly I'm up on top of the world. Should have been somebody else. Dun, 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 dun. Believe it or not, I'm walking on air. I never thought I could be so free. Flying away, a wing and a prayer. Oh, can't you see? Believe it or not, it's just me. Didn't expect your Uncle Fishy to bust off singing, did you? Well, then you ain't been here before. That's what Kyron comes for. Yeah, that's the problem. Mine can't handle OBS and TikTok at the same time. I did like you did recently, and just used TikTok Live to capture my screen in here and had to work full screen, but it worked. But then I can't go through OBS. And I had rigged up my whole system to be very dependent on OBS, which was unfortunate. Because like I had my webcam upside down, so I had OBS flipping it and everything and doing all my, like, I love having OBS because I can set it so that the camera doesn't automatically change focus. So when I'm talking with my hands, which I do a lot, it doesn't focus on my hands and lose focus on my face. I can just focus right there. And I love that. But like I said, I can't run both of them at the same time. And the one thing that TikTok will do that nobody else will do is put my stuff out in front of new eyes. So it's pretty much a given that I have to move over to doing that. Because, you know, we got to get new viewers on our stuff or we will stagnate and die. Man, I wish I could do like some guys and make all these pieces separate individual colored things, and then I can move them all around in a cool animation. But yeah, I'm not doing that. That's going to take me way too much time. Cool, man. I appreciate it, dude. Thank you. I appreciate anything to help get some more eyes out there on the work. You know how it is. Colin out here making the world a better place, one TikTok live at a time. He really just wanted to boost his viewership with all my awesomeness, but that's all right. I ain't hung up about it. That's what a wise man said. A wise ass, one or the other. I can't remember. It's one of the two. Silly fishy, you still had your eraser on. Crazy old boy. What was you doing there? Was you walking around with your eraser on instead of your pen like an idiot? Is that what you was doing? Oh, I don't blame you. I don't blame you one bit, Kyrie. Get out there and boost your viewership. You gotta do what you gotta do, man. I don't blame you. If I thought I could get away with restreaming Danny J. Quick's lives as my own, forget about it. I'd have 100,000 followers too. I thought if I shaved my head, nobody'd be able to tell the difference between us, but apparently they still can. I don't know. I guess it's the beard. That's what's giving me away. It's the big long beard. God, I should have thought of that. But much like cow falls to no man, fish shaves for no man. Unless it's my head. Oh man. Since it's just us boys up in here and there ain't no Sarahs or Katies out here to hear my embarrassing secrets. He would probably be more hologram than gadget and be all apps, I would imagine. Go Gadget App Store. I wanted to be Inspector Gadget so bad. My brother's like, dude, he's a robot. I was like, no, he's not. He's a cyborg. He has a niece. Robots can't have nieces. The people can't have their heads come off and go on retractable cables. Shut up, they can't too. Turns out they can't. Neck and neck, be damned. It can't happen yet. Wait for it to save. Oh man, Lion-O? Absolutely, dude. Though I gotta admit, I wanted to be Panthro because I wanted to be the engineer. Like, oddly enough, that's what got me into drawing comic books. Was I wanted to be an engineer when I grew up. I wanted to be an inventor and build awesome gadgets. And which is what made me fall in love with characters like Data from the Goonies and Inspector Gadget. And I've told the story on just about every interview I've ever gone on. But after watching the Goonies, I desperately wanted to build myself a gadget coat like his. And my mom, smartly enough, would not allow me to just go to the junkyard and bring home anything that I thought was cool. She decided that I had to have a detailed set of plans laid out of what I was going to build before I went to the junkyard and brought anything home. So I started drawing out my plans for my coat, and they just kept changing and which was a smart move on my mom's part because then she never had to take me to go do that. Because I never could settle on anything. But eventually, I realized that I was never going to be able to find a miniaturized power source that would give me the power I would need to power the devices that I wanted to build. Because, my gadget suit, my gadget coat turned into a exoskeleton, turned into a suit of Iron Man armor, and just kept going and growing. And but I can't power those jet turbines without some kind of energy source. And no matter what breakthroughs they would make in battery technology, it would just never get light enough and powerful enough to be able to power what I wanted. And even now, like, they can build these really cool suits that do neat stuff, like the flight suits that they're developing now. But still, realistically, they got such limited power. And that's only doing one thing. That's just flying around, and that's just carrying the weight of the flying machine and the person. That's not carrying the flight equipment and armor and weapons and everything else that I was designing into these suits. Like, it's just not going to happen anytime soon that we're going to make that kind of breakthrough in power. And so I realized it would just be a lot easier to just draw the stuff and keep coming up with cool ideas that don't work yet, but maybe eventually someday somebody will figure out how to make those ideas a reality, and it'll be because I inspired them. Like, having personal communication devices that we could walk around with that you could just flip open and talk into was a pipe dream when they showed it on Star Trek. And 20 years ago we had those as cell phones, and now they're passe. Juan Batista says the Sword of Omens is his favorite weapon. Yes, with the power of plot holes. The sword, I loved it as a kid. I absolutely loved it as a kid. Going back and rewatching it now, honestly, Thundercats holds up better than most anything else does. Like, I freaking loved He-Man growing up. I can't watch it now. It is unwatchable to me now. Like, it's bad. Thundercats is still pretty good. I mean, I don't like the Burbles any better than I ever did. But Thundercats is pretty good. But going back and rewatching it, oh my goodness. Like, Sword of Omens just does whatever they needed to do to get through this episode. And it never really has to make a whole lot of sense. And that kind of bugs me. Because, like, by the end, he's just straight, like, flying with it. And I'm like, man, there are so many instances earlier on in the series where, like, just being able to fly with the Sword of Omens would have got you out of that hole you spent a whole episode trapped in. But, we didn't need it then, because then we needed you trapped in that hole for the story. But now that, you're across the planet and we need to get you home right quick, yeah, now we can fly. Now it makes sense. That bothers my autistic brain. Like, things need to make sense. Things need to work frontwards and backwards. Like, if it does it now, it needs to be able to do it all the time. That's one of the things that, that's one of the reasons that, like, it takes me longer to write like an an issue of Green Zone, let's say, because everything matters and is tied together and there's a reason for things. And like, if somebody can do XYZ, then what does that mean to the gangs in there? What does it mean to the criminals? What does that mean to the cops? What would the cops do in retaliation to knowing that, the bad guys can do this or that? Like, I think all that stuff through and all that stuff matters for me, especially in a book like Green Zone that's a more serious book. Now, Kaw is just fun, but still, like, Kaw's not likely to end up being able to do something in one issue that he can't do in another issue. Because I don't do that. I don't like that. I don't like it when things don't make sense. Like in the early Superman movies, Superman just flying around the world and turning back time. Okay, that doesn't really make sense for a couple of reasons, but mostly, like, if we're going to do that, then why doesn't he do that more often? Why doesn't he do that when other bad things happen? Why is it only when his girlfriend dies that it's okay to do that? And if it's not okay other times to do it because, like, you're rewriting time or whatever, why is it okay to do it now that his girlfriend is hurt? Like that, I don't like that. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't work always. It just works one way because I said so, because I want it to work right now, because I wrote myself into a corner and I don't know how to bring her back. But then also, I don't like it when, like, death doesn't matter in a story. If you can just bring somebody back to life, then why would you ever be concerned about the cliffhanger that has her perched perilously over a cliff when he can just redo time and bring her back? Because Lois Lane is the key to keeping Superman from turning evil and subjugating the entire planet. Which I don't like that either. That's the only thing stopping him from being a monster. Then is he really not a monster? Is he just a monster that hasn't hurt anybody yet? It's kind of like the argument people like to make against people of faith, like myself, that if my faith is the only thing that makes me moral, then am I really moral? Well, no. If I'm just afraid of cosmic punishment, then no, the fact that I don't hit my wife, doesn't make me a good guy if I'm only doing it out of, fear of somebody bigger hitting me for all eternity. Like, that doesn't make me a nice guy. But that's also not why I'm a good guy. That's not why I'm not being a nice guy because I'm afraid of eternal punishment. But it's easy for people that don't understand to look at it that way and assume that that's what it is, because that would probably be what it is for them. That would be why they would do it. And for a lot of people, that's what it's been pitched as. And that's wrong. But, as I've said many a time, nobody has done more damage to the faith of Christianity than Christians have done. And a lot of times it's absolutely well-meaning, but they just don't realize how much damage they do by making stupid arguments and stuff, or trying to scare people into faith. And if that did work, is that why you would want somebody there? Like, I know that's not why God would want them there, but, But I totally understand why people don't understand and why they don't get it, because I didn't either. And I honestly spent most of my life absolutely hating anybody of faith and thinking that they were absolute idiots. Like, it has taken a lot of work to be able to rewrite some of the stories that I wrote back then to read as anything other than, oh my God, Christians are so stupid. But that was the whole point of like a whole lot of stories that I wrote back then, because I didn't get it, I didn't understand it, and the people that had tried to force me into believing their way came at it from the worst possible avenues that you could. How could you not be bitter and angry at that? I can feel that. Like, I had a buddy in college when I was lost as a goose and didn't like people of faith, etc., 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 etc. And he apparently had strong convictions in the faith, and like, we were friends, but he always made a stink about his faith. And like when we played role playing games, he would only play if I was running a sci-fi game or a superhero game. But he'd make a big stink about how he wasn't going to play D&D because that was the devil's game because it had witchcraft in it. And all right, fine. If you don't want to play, you can sit out. Um, I don't care. Um, and we're still friends to this day. But he always used his faith as a weapon. And, it was always the thing that it didn't matter that in every other aspect of life, he might have been a loser. And, and his dad didn't love him. And, he had an unnatural worship of me and my artistic abilities, which made me real uncomfortable all the time. He was my first experience with a fanboy that was just there because they were so enamored by my skill and not like just because they wanted to be my friend. But anyway, it didn't matter if he was a loser. It didn't matter if nothing else was going right for him. It didn't matter if he couldn't keep a girlfriend, blah, blah, blah. He would wield that faith like a hammer because it made him better than everybody else. And maybe someday, if I would do XYZ and jump through all these hoops, then maybe someday I could be as special as him. And, God would love me and I would be special too. But, until then, he's better than me. And like I said, he wielded that like a hammer to the point that like when I did actually get saved, I didn't see him for like 5-6 years because he didn't know how to interact with me without being able to wield his superiority over me. And now in his mind, I was better at him than everything, which I absolutely did not view myself that way, but those are his hangups, not mine. And people like him were a core reason of what kept me away from the faith for most of my life and made me absolutely hate people of faith to the point that I made a point of aggravating people that would make a stink about their faith and do things intentionally just to rile them up and make them mad, and I would argue them over points. And what really bothers me now, looking back at it, is most of those people had no argument for their faith, no argument for why they believe what they believe, beyond essentially, well, that's what my mama said. When you argue them down to, well, why do you believe this? Well, because the Bible says so. I was like, well, if I don't believe in your book, that doesn't mean anything to me. So why should I buy this? Well, because that's where you go on Sundays, because that's what you do. Why? Because my mama said that's why. If you don't have any more reason than that to explain your faith to me, you're not going to convince me of anything. If somebody wanted me to explain to them why I believe in God and why I have as strong a faith as I do, I could sit down and talk for days about why, and probably never mention the Bible if it was a stumbling block for somebody else. I like to mention the Bible because I like to clarify misunderstandings that people have about it and misunderstandings that I had about it and things that were preached to me over the years to prove you know, what an angry, vengeful, fearful God he was, and that I had better get right, or he was going to strike me down and turn me into a pillar of salt. And when I actually started getting saved, I went back to read all those passages just to prove that the guys that were telling me about all this love and mercy were wrong, because God is a hateful, vengeful, petty child. And so I'm reading all these things for myself for the first time and realizing, wait a minute, this this is not what I have been told at all. That's not what these stories are about at all. That's taking what happened out of context and leaving out everything else. And even though I went in there trying to prove them wrong, it ended up drawing me closer. But also, I understand that for someone on the outside, it's kind of like trying to argue about colors with somebody who's colorblind and has only ever seen the world in black and white. And and you start talking about all these beautiful colors, and all they've ever seen is black and white. And they're like, well, I don't know about this purple you keep talking about, but all I've ever seen is shades of gray, and that's all my friends have seen, and that's all I see on the news. And I think you're crazy talking about these purples and greens. I've never seen no purples and greens. And then all of a sudden, one day, your eyes get opened and you see the whole rainbow of colors, and you're like, oh my God, I didn't get it. But I'm not about to sit there and be angry at somebody because they don't get it yet. Like, God had to walk me through a whole lot to get me over my own issues. And I was not willing to make it easy. So we had to go all around the barnyard to get there. And there's a whole lot of people in the church that want to blame a whole lot of things on God and the devil that got nothing to do with them. And there's a whole lot of people that, want to make nonsense a much bigger deal than it is. And there's just so much silliness. like, I mean, I've known a lot of believers that, get so caught up in wanting to do God's will and wanting, everything they do to matter in the kingdom, that like they're stressing out praying over, like, what drink they should order at Starbucks, which which latte would bring God the most glory right now. Like, that's ridiculous. God could not care less what you drink right now. Unless, of course, he has, been on you to give that $6 to somebody who desperately needs it and you're blowing it on a coffee. Maybe he cares, but I don't think God cared at all if I put chocolate almond milk in my coffee this morning or vanilla. I don't think it matters in the grand scheme of things. But people get caught up in weird things like that, because they don't want to make mistakes, that they get caught up and they end up just being ridiculous about some things sometimes. Or like, I've known people that, would buy a new car and never once take it for a single oil change, and then 40, 50, 60,000 miles in, their engine locks up. It's like, oh Lord, Satan is after me. Satan has put a hex on my car. Satan is trying to destroy me. No, you didn't get an oil change. Like, you didn't do regular maintenance on your vehicle that you were supposed to do. This is a direct consequence of your actions. But that's something most people don't want to hear. Just like, a whole lot of things that God lays out in there aren't God punishing you so much for being disobedient as like I'm trying to explain to you how some things work. And like, if God made a commandment, thou shalt not stick a fork in thy eye, and you're like, well, you're not the boss of me, I'm gonna stick a fork in my eye, nothing's gonna happen, I'll show you. And then you stick a fork in your eye and you go blind. It's not God cursing you with blindness because you disobeyed him and stuck a fork in your eye. You stuck a damn fork in your eye. You poked your own eye out. Now you can't see out of an eye. Like, that's how it works. But, people are like, oh, God struck me with blindness. Why would a loving God strike me with blindness just because I stuck a fork in my own eye? You stuck a fork in your eye. Yeah. And that's the problem. There's people involved in it. If there weren't people involved in it, it would be beautiful. But people ruin everything. People ruin everything that they're involved in. And as soon as you put people in it, things go wrong because they got to people it up. And, the church would have been a beautiful thing if it wasn't for, people trying to hold power and sway over people and, yeah. And that's my problem with many sects and cults and things that have taken the word and bastardized it into what they want it to be and take out the parts that they don't like and rewrite things. Oh goodness, now my messenger's dinging. I have no idea what that dude is talking about. I thought for sure if my messenger was dinging in the middle of a show, it was Kyron saying that something was wrong with my show. Because if my messenger dings in the middle of a show, it's almost always Kyron. Oh, that was supposed to be a finger. Silly old Alf. I lost one of your big fuzzy fingers. Thought it was a piece of the shirt. Somebody should have drawn you better, Alf. Personally, I blame PJ. I think he didn't draw you good enough. I think that was the problem. That don't seem like the kind of thing fish would do. Fish's poop don't stink. That's what I hear on the internet. This is the word at the water cooler. That's what Deb down in accounting was telling me. I don't think Deb would lie to me. Not like a Kyron or a PJ might lie to me. Headed to the Memphis Comic Expo this weekend for the first time. Trying out some new things. Gonna be my first time pitching Caw at a show. And I've only got so many copies of Caw now because the TikTok shop has been doing well, which is a wonderful thing. But I'm probably gonna sell out of Caw pretty quick, I would imagine. I have to order more when I get back because I'm just too busy to do it right now. I got too much stuff to get done between here and there. I'm gonna be lucky if I can get everything done in time. Like, I've been taking a TV with me for a while and playing videos, some of the animations you've seen on my TikTok and my Facebook and stuff that talk, pitch, green zone and whatnot, which is really handy when you're across the aisle from celebrities and people are sitting there for hours waiting to get their signature and whatnot. we were stuck across the aisle from one of the guys from Harry Potter. And man, we got so many people that came over after waiting for, an hour to get his signature, hour and a half, whatever. And they'd be like, okay, I'm in love with this big lizard dude. He is now my boyfriend. I need to know more about him and I need to buy this book. Because they just sat there watching the videos of it for an hour go by and looking at my giant banner and like, okay, I need to know more about this. And it was great. But anyway, so that's done well for me. And I am, but okay, that did really well. But then I mounted that TV in here and it's now my monitor, and I don't want to have to unhook it from the wall to take it up there and put freaking feet on the bottom of it again because I took the feet off so I can mount it on the wall. I don't want to do that. So I got a rolling stand now, and I got a smaller TV that will go on top of that rack and stand right up behind those at the top and play the little animation there and take up less space on the table, give me more room to work at the show. And so I'm trying that out for the first time. And I've got to get some videos made of Caw to play on there before the show. I didn't have time to get them done before the Kickstarter. And since then, I've been so busy, fulfilling the Kickstarter and everything else that I never really took the time to make them. So now it's time to poop or get off the pot, as they say back home. They don't say poop, but I'm trying to be nice. What is up, Katie? It's about time. All right, everybody, we can quit bad-mouthing Katie now that she's here. We can still give Sarah hell. No good, rotten, low-down, dirty, stinking Sarah. The backstabbingest, cutest, sweetest, lovingest. Oh, wait a minute. I'm going the wrong direction. Never mind. The rootinest, tootinest. She was just outside in the back 40 in the garden, planting trees and digging fjords, as you do. She says Scotland's never been known for its fjords, but it's about to be. She's going to make a difference. One fjord at a time. I just love saying fjord. That is literally the only reason I keep saying that. It's because I love saying fjord. Not as fun as that. I had to go shopping and dropping books off at the charity shop. She was out there being kind and generous. Making the rest of us look bad. That's what Kyron said. I said, Kyron, it's not like that. He said, yes, it is. Katie's out there making us look bad. Making me look like a chump, he said. I told him not to take it personally, but this was Kyron we were talking about. There's one thing he takes. It's personalies. God, God, I love myself. I don't even know. I forgot what I was talking about once I said Kyron likes to take things. There's one way he takes them. It's personal. It's just tickled the crap out of me. I have no idea what I was talking about before that now because that just tickled me. Oh my God. Y'all so lucky to have me in your lives. I tell my wife that all the time. I was like, you could have got some boring dude that just, went to work and came home and watched football. But you got me. I'm always putting on a show. I've always got some zany new one-liner. Lucky, lucky woman. That's Kyron's screen name on Match.com. That's probably not technically accurate, but like Kyron says, it's good enough for the chicks we date. I just realized Optimus Prime has windshield wiper nipples. How did that escape me up until now? I don't know. I just realized I'm drawing his windshield wiper nipples off screen. Shame on me for depriving you all of the pleasure. Kyron told me he came here for the nipples, but he'll stay for the windshield wipers. I told him I didn't understand what that meant. He said I was too poor to understand. I just smiled and nodded. If his wiper nipples get pecky, he just turns on the defrost. If he's wanting to do a sexy car wash, then he just turns on that little windshield wiper sprayer and all it wet and shiny. And the tips come rolling in. Kyron says that's how he made his first millions. Sexy car wash. That and $1 million loan from his rich daddy. He said that's all you need to make $1 million. Sexy car wash and $1 million loan from daddy. And here we go. We're stuck again, waiting for it to save. Save, save, save. Save, save, save. Won't somebody think of the children? Oh my goodness, we've been on for almost 2 hours now. Oh, it was a $5 million loan to make that first million. You know, that makes it a lot easier. Now I see why you're my better. You're smarter. Wiser with your daddy's money than I was. Of course, my daddy didn't have none, which didn't help at all. No count, poor folk. Man, if somebody just took this out of context, they'd probably cancel me real quick for some of the nonsense I say on this show. They weren't here for it. Oh, somebody's ringing my dinger. Let me check. Let me see who's ringing my dinger. Oh, it's my wife ringing my dinger. Says she loves me. Crazy woman. Crazy woman loving a crazy old man. Doesn't she know that just emboldens an old man to do crazier things? No, there's a double meaning to that I love you. Partly she's saying, I love you. Partly she's saying, aren't you done yet? She also knows I will lose track of time. I'll get hyper focused on, let's say, inking something crazy detailed and forget all about the rest of the world and its going ons and what have yous. No, that's not right. By Jove, that's not too shabby for... Oh, let me get over here and see if you can even see what I'm looking at. Oh, wrong window. There we go. That is not too shabby for 2 hours of work on the show. That's right. Nice, I think. Somebody might pay money for that if I ever finished it. It's better my wife ringing my dinger than old Karen ringing my dinger. Because usually if somebody rings my dinger during the show on Messenger, it's usually Karen saying that my audio is off. I got a booger dangling out my nose or something. Anyway, thank you guys for hanging out. I appreciate it. It has been a fun 2-hour show. Thank you for everybody that came and hung out. Phil and Katie and Kyrens, if you will. And thank you, Juan Batista, and everyone else that popped in. Oh, now I got Kyron ringing my dinger for sure. What's up, guy? Did you butt dial me? Because all I'm seeing is ceiling. Y'all see Kyron's ceiling fan? What? Where is it? There. Look at that sexy ceiling fan. That's a rich people ceiling fan if I ever seen one. You can't tell from the picture, but that ceiling fan's actually about 8 yards across. That's how big that ceiling is. All right, well, I guess since he butt dialed me, I'm gonna hang up and I'm gonna get off of here. But thank y'all for hanging out with me. It has been fun. Had a good time. It is a nice ceiling, isn't it? I'm telling you, man. All right, thank y'all for hanging out. I'm gonna be back next Thursday, but next Thursday is gonna be public for everybody, because I got Joe Solis coming on from Child's Play Comics, and we're going to be doing a variant cover for one of his books, and we're going to be talking about his upcoming Kickstarter and everything. So for sure, be here Thursday morning to check that out. 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 a.m. Central. And I will see y'all Thursday. Peace out.
Hello, everybody. It is your Uncle Fish back again for School Fish Arch Stream. J-Man wants a Gatling gun on the end of his tail. Oh my goodness. J-Man says the tail's where you put all the heavy artillery. Yeah. Said he used to have a howitzer on the end of his tail.